Deb, welcome.
Oh, that was such a beautiful way to start the summit. I was just right on, sister. That was great. That was great.
You know what? I'm so happy you're here.
You too.
I mean, really and truly. I know you're gonna maybe have a mirror moment that you're gonna talk to us about today, and I'm very excited about that. I just want everyone to know Deb is also a momager. She starts more companies. We have this shared love of starting businesses, and Deb's been doing this since she was like, I don't know how old.
20 something.
20 something. We're all going to say 20 something. Okay, so Deb, dive in. Tell us the story of surrender.
Oh my goodness. So thank you. And thank you for everyone that's here. This is going to be amazing. I'm personally looking forward to hearing everyone else share. So let's kick this off, shall we? Let's talk a little bit about surrender. Because Carol, I know that people say to you, how do you do it? And on the inside, we're like, sister to sister, we're like, why do we do it? Why do we do it? That's not the right question. How do you do it? I always say, if you see a woman out there or you see a man out there doing the thing, instead of going, how do you do it? Just say, how can I help you do it? Right. I think that's the better question because they're like, really? Yay. Someone to go down this crazy lane with me. But the story that I'm going to share is really kind of at the beginning. And it was one of the first major trusting experiences that I had was surrender. And I was living my dream. Well, I love music. So I was in the world of music and I loved it. I loved going to work. Like I'm sure we all, enjoy and love what we do. But things were starting to change. And as you talked about earlier, some of the things that you had people share and surrender, it wasn't the most healthiest of environments. Now, we were talking in that 20 something world, right? Where that environment wasn't necessarily so functional. I always say that we were the best functional family in the most dysfunctional sector because, we were all in it together, right? There was a whole crew of us. And so anyways, living that life, doing that, living that life. And I came home from working, with the club one night and with the band. And of course, you go for dinner after work. So you get home around 4 in the morning because you work till 2 or whatever. And so you go, everyone, oh, it's a great show. It's a great this, high five and go home. Because the story I'm about to tell makes it sound like I was out partying all night or for 3 days. And I had this weird, crazy voice in my head, but that's not the case. I was completely sober. I was taking off my makeup and the mirror went pitch black. And as we talk about it, even though it was, over 30 years ago, I can feel and see myself in that bathroom. And the mirror went pitch black. I was at my girlfriend's house to boot. So that's like, oh, kind of crazy. And I don't know how long it was black for. I just know it was enough panic in that I felt like I had gone instantly blind. And then I heard a voice in my head, not really used to hearing voices at that point, didn't really have a spiritual foundation in my 20s, right? And I heard, you're done. Now, I don't know, and you hear those words, you could take it any way that you want, but all of a sudden the mirror came back. And I was just so grateful. And then I went to bed. And the next morning, I don't know why, other than I called the club and I, called the business and said, I'm not coming back. And they're like, what's with you? Like I am, I'm work loyal. If anyone knows me, I'm work loyal. I'm loyal to a fault, right? I'm loyal to a fault. So I'm never going to call someone and go, no can do today. That's just not my style. They're like, oh my God, are you sick? Do you have the flu? Like what's going on? And I'm like, I don't know. I'm just not coming back. And they're out of their mouth that goes, what are you going to do for money? What are you going to do? I'm like, I don't know. I don't know. And it was that. It was just that. And I left everything and I didn't have the answers. But I knew that a difference had to happen. Now, the book that you talked about, Shakti Gaiwan, Living in the Light, came into my life. A couple of things, not the plethora of messages we get now. I don't think I, for one, was looking at things as messages. And for two, that just wasn't how we talked. That wasn't common conversation. Okay. So I didn't really even tell anybody because I'm sure I still felt it was cray cray. So I decided to make a change. I didn't know what kind of change that I was going to make. But I found a course and this course was if you wanted to change, I don't know if anyone remembers the book. I think there was a book based on like what color is your umbrella or something. And it was about when you wanted to, you took these tests to see what kind of job you should be at. But it was this 6-week course for women that wanted to change their careers. And so I went in that direction and started doing some personal development, looking at things in my life. It's been a few days. I don't remember how I quote unquote made it. Like, I don't know how I made it, if I had money in the bank or not. I was not in a state of flourishing. You put that way, right? I remember at one point moving into my, boyfriend's mom's house, and we all kind of did that thing. Well, I kind of got it together, I got it together, and it took a while to get it together. I didn't take a course the next week, but I really did some inner work, and I went into this course. And that's where it started to open my eyes up to other areas that I could be doing for my work, not realizing where that would take me. So I think the biggest question around that, or challenge around that, or idea around that, was that I needed to make a shift. And I didn't know. I mean, I knew, like, right? You're kind of like, oh, that's kind of funky, right? But I loved so much of what I was doing that the little stuff that was not so cool was outweighed with my love for music itself. And then I knew there was things that weren't healthy. I knew it was starting to become unhealthy for me. And that's kind of how the message came delivered. I don't know if I would have listened any other way. I think it had to be something considerable, because my whole world was absorbed in there. This was my work. These were my friends. These were my people. I was helping them. They were helping us. We all kind of came from the same place. We all thought the same way. And I didn't really see like another door or an exit to go. So it was really hard. I'm not going to lie. It was really hard to leave my people. When I went into personal development, I had some people that were like, oh, now you're like all godlike, right? And I wasn't even godlike. I just wasn't not godlike. And it was tough because there was about 40 of us that hung out, and they were like, where are you going? And I was the first one to venture off. And I, moved to a different part of the city, and I started taking classes, and I decided went to these classes, and I decided I was going to go help women in third world countries create economic platforms. And then, of course, a bit of my story from there, where I had this, wanted surprise of my daughter that diverted that. And now I'm talking over the course of about 2 years after that. But it was a tough decision, but it wasn't tough to follow. Do you know what I mean? That following through on that information was tougher than getting the information. And yeah.
It's kind of amazing because, and I'm sure the audience heard this as well, basically, divinely inspired voice, stop doing what you're doing. What's cool to me is that you said yes immediately. And like you said, that was not your MO in your professional world. I mean, you said, yes, I will change my playmates and my playpens, and I'm going to go ahead and figure out what my next job is going to be.
Mm-hmm.
That was, that is, again, oftentimes, and I appreciate everybody letting me do this, but it's kind of like the disciples of Jesus. He said, follow me, and they left, and they just did. And I love that you did that. And let everyone, did you see that? Like you said, maybe you didn't reference that as God, but through this story and through your yes, right?
Yeah.
How much light and joy. I mean, was it just immediately you felt relief?
Yeah, I'll talk about that. So, so you got to think this was over 30 years ago. There wasn't conversations like we're having today ever. I didn't come from that place either. I wouldn't have even known if that was a God moment, because I was raised not against God, but not for God. Like I was, and you know what? I'm kind of grateful for that in a way. I didn't have to heal, wounds around that, but I also didn't have access to that or that feeling. So I didn't put it together as a God job until I was, very much later in life, when I started to bring that part of my life to myself, if that makes sense. When I started to, I remember one of my first coaches, she's like, okay, we need to, you'll relate to this because the vocabulary is very similar for you, is have something outside of yourself. You have to believe in something outside of yourself. And I had been really self-driven. I was a survivor of many things. I took care of the family. I was raised in a single mom home. There wasn't a lot of, wieners for the beans. I think my first job was when I was 14 officially. I lied to get a graveyard shift at Denny's and said I was 16 so I could make $3.85 an hour instead of $2.65. So I think because I was in a lot of survival, I just was still in survival when that message came. But that message came, and I mean, it was shocking to me. Like, I mean, I'm leaving my work that honestly, we made really good money. Like we made really good money, in that world. And I remember, my boss saying to me at one point, like, you need to cash some checks. But we had made so much money on tips and all that kind of thing that I didn't cash a check in 6 months. So I'm like, okay. And so it was difficult to give up. I mean, we were spending as much as we were making and living a very wonderful life and all that kind of stuff. But it was not really, I mean, I bet you honestly, it was 2, 3, or 4 years later before I realized that those two pieces went together. I mean, I moved more into personal development and got coaching and got therapy and got counseling. And I did counseling every week for 2 years. Back then it was called like, family therapy. You could be the only person in the family showing up, which I was, right? But it wasn't until later in my life that I realized that was a catalyst moment. It was pretty well the fear, I think, that ran through my body of I've gone instantly blind, that made me so activated the next day to make change. I didn't really associate my lifestyle to the decision. It was just that you're done. For me, I interpreted it. I mean, Carol, the crazy thing is anyone could have interpreted it into any way, right? But for some reason, it felt like a life message. And my whole world in my life was what I was doing. And I knew it wasn't a healthy industry, right? I didn't see where it was going to go. I probably didn't really care. But that was the beginning of a big shift.
Kind
Like
of amazing. I mean, fearful. All of a sudden, everything's dark. You think you're blind.
yeah,
Get your attention.
yeah, I
Well,
did.
so, Deb, do you think, because this is very much, you had this huge career change and you've had so many businesses. Do you think back on that now, your practice of surrender,
Mm,
do you do this daily? What is the practice of surrender look like for you?
yeah. So in that part of my life, in terms of activating me to do something, um, it's very considerable. So it's interesting. I was asked to speak at an International Women's Day Summit. Thank goodness it wasn't on the same day as ours. So I did. I flew and I came back just in time. Not last year, the year before. And they asked me to tell my story. And of course, people know that I've built different businesses. And they're like, tell us the story of your business. And I honestly got up there and I was telling the story of how my business has changed or evolved or what I do. And I got this message. I heard these words. I had this experience and I was told. And as I was telling it, I was like, the audience is going to think that I do nothing but sit around and get messages from God. Like really, but because it had been over such a long period of time, and everyone who knows me, I don't do everything I'm supposed to do. Like, ask my mom if I ever did anything I was supposed to do. So, I'll tell her what to do. But I don't know, they come with a different sense of reverence. It was like they come with a non-negotiable voice. And so I mean, you get used to it after a while, right? You go in this direction, go in this direction, and I see it all now as one involvement that has moved me to the other, to the other, to the other. I mean, you talked about the Success Magazine experiences that I've had, and those required stage experiences. And so as I was walking across the stage getting my award, which is lovely, I knew that was preparatory. It just didn't make sense to me. My work ethic didn't make sense. It didn't make sense. I'm like, why am I And it wasn't self-esteem or low self-esteem or anything. I was just like, this is meant for something bigger one day. And here we are in the big event that I believe it was preparatory for. So I think what happens is when you realize that something is like that, and you start to understand yourself, your life, and your messages. And I know that I always said, oh, I'm here to heal the bank tailors because, and I've already said with you, my next book is hashtag God pick on somebody else, because I keep being put in these front line. It's like I say, I think like a general, but I'm on the front line. I'm like this frontline soldier in pioneering changes and careers and opportunities for the sector that I've been put in, which is entrepreneurship. And even now, preparing people for television and things like that, there's a lot of work to the positions that I get given. So sometimes that's why I said in the surrender piece that you had us do before the show, it's like surrender sounds really beautiful, right? Sounds really beautiful, sounds really peaceful. You surrender, you let go. For me, surrender has been not necessarily easy, because I know now that some of the callings, I'm like, ooh, can you pick on someone else today? But I know it's my path. And within that, there's a aptitude of understanding. So I didn't have like that powerful moment knowing that it was the right thing to do until I almost finished doing it or was in it. And I think that that's what happens for me now. Now I understand surrender. I have surrender. I let go. A couple of days ago, I had something happen. I remember it was like, and it was a big deal happen. And I'm like, okay, I guess something else better is coming along. And so I have this act of surrender in my life where people, say to me, wow, that didn't rock your world. And I'm like, I think my world's educated and experienced enough that I've experienced enough of when things go left and it's out of your control, like when it's really out of your control, then I don't know what choice that you have but to surrender.
I love that so much. I want to point out here that so often, and I hope it's different now, but I don't know that it is, in our businesses and in our just in our professional lives, people don't talk about God. I remember we used to send something out and we would have scripture with it, and somebody said, what if people don't like that? And he wants to be a part of everything. He wants to enhance everything. Our gifts are God-given gifts. We have a responsibility to grow them. It's okay, again, if people have different faiths or they disagree. It is time to let that part go. If we allow that, if we surrender that, oh, what are they going to think about if I put, God bless you, or, whatever you're going to put, they might not want to work with me. That's okay. You surrender. First of all, we're judging other people by having that conversations with ourselves. So let's just start there. So let's not judge others for being judgmental, right? And
Mm-hmm,
I love
mm-hmm,
that you have kept since that time, since the mirror moment,
mm-hmm.
you have continued to, and now you look for the tell me what to do, this divine direction. And do you see often that people are hesitant? People are always like, God, don't talk about religion or politics. You know, we've got to go ahead and embrace our differences. That's the problem.
Right. Yeah, that's an interesting one from a business standpoint, because you're talking about it in business, right? I think again, that's got to come down to individual choice. And for someone like you were just saying, well, if someone doesn't want to do business with me because of the faith that I have, then that in itself is a surrender. I think it's such a personal decision on, because I think that um, both both of those, both of those things, politics, religion, faith-based questions, or people's beliefs in anything can be such a personal thing, right? It's like it can be such a personal thing. For me, it's about I don't make a decision to, and I don't make a decision not to. Like I don't make a decision to, right? And then it's like, I think if I just show up, I come on to a summit and I talk about this God moment that I had that I didn't know was a God moment. You know what I mean? And I think that hopefully people fall in love with the soul of the person, the story of the person, the actions of the person. And then yeah, I think you're right. There's room for everybody and every belief, and differences make us different, which is important. Um yeah, it's such a tough one, right? It's a tough one. I think that sometimes um that's not part of conversation because not everybody thinks like that, and depending on the platform, right? We're both in media, so we understand that.
And I think that, I hope that we're moving towards, as you and I do, global
Mhm,
conversations so that it is okay and actually maybe celebrated the differences, whether
mhm,
that be faith or politics or whatever it is, so that we can become curious. So you surrender the judgment and say, you know what? I'm going to surrender this judgment and I'm going to try to understand. Well, we can't understand if we don't have a conversation.
mhm. Yeah, that's true.
And so I know I'm just I'm going to be sad every time I have to end a conversation. Thank you.
No worries.
And everyone with Deb and everyone that's going to share today, we will have every way you can get in touch, follow. You got to check out the women's channel that Deb has founded. It's so exciting. And I got to tell you, the shows that she's been signing up are unbelievable. So we'll send you the information, get in touch, follow, join your groups, all the things. And Deb, I'll see you later this week.
You will. Thank you so much. And I'm gonna be not on camera, obviously, but I'm gonna be listening and cheering everyone on from the sidelines. So,
Thank
okay.
you.
Thank you,
See
honey.
you soon.
See
Thank
you
you.
soon.